things. And what we're going to do is we're just going to do this as an if. Because fuck it. If it's going to do an infinite loop, I'm not going to give it a chance. I'm going to just go ahead and give it a while. And we are going to just let it do it once. Just once. And maybe I got it backwards twice. Who knows? But I can't afford to keep bouncing this goddamn stream because it chops up the final product into like 18 different files. And I don't need a file that's 10 seconds long. So anyhow, if you're just joining us on YouTube after the fact, I'm doing stuff, but I'm continually crashing OBS. So, yeah, we're putting together this cable connector, and basically we're connecting this box to this box using cables. There's lots of other stuff in the file, in the product, but it is just not in this scene anymore because I broke it. So what we don't see here is any kind of jinking. We got 2 cable lengths and no jinking. Now if we look at this, this is strange because it shouldn't be able to do that. Did I use the wrong file? I might have. I did. So this is just cable jink R, and this is just cable jink L. But I also think that I might have gotten the cable boxes backwards. So this is a good time to just go ahead and make whatever cable box is further along the one that is the one we use. So we'll just go ahead and rearrange this a little bit to figure out what we're looking for here. So transform front back if endBox.position.z is less than startBox.position.z, then front equals endBox, back equals startBox. Else front equals startBox and back equals endBox. And then here, we're just going to start from the front. Maybe. Front. There we are. I'll give this a shot. Because I don't want it to care which of them is in front and when I set up the file, because I want you to be able to drag the file, the setup either way. And I lost all of my viewers doing that stream bouncing. Sorry, guys. Oh well. That is the nature of the business, I suppose. Okay. So it looks like what we've got here is a couple of issues. First off, I had it right the first time. So this was supposed to be R and L. That was correct the first time. But it also looks like the cable is not offsetting by quite enough. Maybe this is the problem. But the position is actually not local, it's global. So there's the problem. What we actually need to do is continually set this up to recalculate the delta, which is not really brilliant, but we'll just go ahead and force it for now, and we'll do it more correctly later on. Oh, it's not backdot position though, is it? It's pause. There we are. Connect. Okay, so there we are. And it is not working quite yet. We're just going to go ahead and set this up. You can see how we have a 4.5 cable offset, which isn't really what I want. I want a 5, because a 4.5 is unrealistic. This here is actually in the right spot, but it's supposed to be 180. So that means that we've got to just go into the prefabs and change these to having a 180-degree rotation like that. And this is -90, and this is big fat zeros. It still didn't get set up right. That's interesting. So it should have gotten set up with the correct setup, but for some reason it has this 180 here. I'm not sure why that is. Did I change the wrong thing? No, that should be correct. If I drop this in, you can see how it's correct. So that should be what we're seeing. But it's been rotated around in a way that it shouldn't have been. That's strange. Let's go ahead and try it one more time. It could be because the forwards and backwards are now backwards again. That's probably it. If I look at this, yeah, okay, so it's just, I reversed it. My bad. You can see how this positioning is -4, but the scaling is flat. That's interesting. All right, one more time. Scale is 0, huh? So, trying to figure out exactly how to set this up, and because I'm working in global space, I'm not really paying enough attention to how this thing actually unfolds. And the result is total garbage. You can see how we're not even getting the jinking anymore. The jinking is now missing, which is strange. There's no reason it should be missing. Oh, well, here's the problem. But that doesn't explain why the cable is gone. Yes, it does. There we are. Let's try it. So, let it recompile, and then run it. Nothing. So, according to this, we have a -5 cable offset. And that means that we should see length getting spawned here. So debug, oh, that's not the one I want. I want to debug these guys. Debug.log jinkr. Because it should be jinking. It should be this. It's less than -0.4. It's -0.5. So it should be doing something, but it's not doing anything, which is not good. You can see how it's not even bothering to try and jink it. This is strange. What am I doing? Am I just being dumb? Oh, yeah, I'm just being dumb. Gosh, you have to be pretty dumb to make these kinds of mistakes on stream. But let me tell you, I am that dumb. Right, so with all that done, we ended up using the wrong object position-wise. See how it says front dot position? We're going to have to spin that over to back dot position. No, that part's correct, I think. Yeah. So I just typed that wrong the first time. Boy, I did literally everything wrong, didn't I? I hope this is very educational, watching a guy continually crash OBS and then try and figure out why this doesn't work. And why this doesn't work is we flipped the cable around without... we didn't actually flip it around right. So we'll just... I don't know whether or not that was always wrong or whether I saved it, but the file got corrupted when I crashed Unity twice. There we go. And you can see that now we've got a little bit of an offset. Now the reason that that offset exists as it does is because it allows us to move things over by half a cable. So if we were to duplicate this whole thing, Unwoven Sleeve says, we have cables. Yeah, I crashed a whole bunch while you were gone, so you didn't miss jack shit. But you can see how if we move over 0.5, the cables are almost exactly perfect. You don't want to do the jinking at the same time, but if we were set up like this, for example, you can see how the cables would get along great. So that's why the jinking is by 0.5. Now, if you've got more than a 0.5 offset, you're going to want to turn, go straight, and then turn again. So that's what we're going to set up now. To do that, we're going to need a cable turn L. That's Trun. Turn L and cable turn R. And then what that'll be is that'll be public vector3 move sideways or spawn sideways. Vector3 pause float length. And this will take up 2 units vertically in terms of z units, but it will take up any number of x units that we want because we're going to turn, then have a length of cable, and then turn again. Pretty easy, right? But if the length is less than 2, then we can't do this because it's because turning does take up an entire unit. So just to show you what we're talking about here, we've got these turnings, and we'll just put them both at 0, 0, 0 for a second so we can take a look. And because we can turn, that's great, right? But if we set up these turns, they do have a minimum size. They can't turn any faster than that. So because of that, there is a minimum limit of 2 units wide. If it's less than that, we're going to have to jink, even though that could mean jinking 4 times. 3 times. It would be, that's fine. We can just deal with it. I can always create a custom large jink, I guess. Both debug logging is set to jinkr. You're right, thank you. I don't actually need them anymore anyway. So right now we're going to go ahead and say if mathf.abs length is less than 2, debug.logerror cannot turn cable with less than 2x. Return pause. That's actually going to cause us some issues, isn't it? Because position might cause an infinite loop. So we're going to go ahead and say pos.x equals 0. Avoid infinite loops. Pos.x, yeah, sorry, pos.x plus equals length. Okay, so then at the end, we're also going to say pos.x plus equals length, but we're going to go ahead and say pos.z plus equals 2, because it's going to be too long. Yeah, that should do it. And that should give us the spawn sideways that we need, but of course we aren't actually putting in the graphics. So let's put in the graphics now. And the way we do the graphics is just to spawn the correct turn, then a length, and then the other turn. Pretty basic, right? The problem is that they may not be aligned properly, so we may have to do some testing to make sure that our turns are aligned. If we look at them in terms of how they are here in the world, if we do a 0 and 0 here, you can see how they both have the same root object. So the turn left starts here and then turns left, and the turn right starts here and then turns right, which means that if we want to turn left and then turn right, we can't simply append the turn right to the turn left, because it will end up looking like this, which isn't quite what we want. So what we would need to do is also rotate it like so by turning it left. And that's something you can do. It's not that hard, but we have to remember to do it. So first things first, let's put in the turn in the direction that we're trying to do. So transform turn equals cable turn left. If length is greater than 0, turn equals cable turn right. And then what we'll do is spawn that in with a simple copy. So this will do the turning, and then this will do the turning rotation. I have to spell things right. That's really a pain. I don't like spelling things right. There we are. So that sets us up with the turn. And let's just go ahead and make sure that that works and doesn't... Oh wait, I forgot to actually set it up to run. So here's where we're going to be doing that. So if delta.x is greater than or equal to 2, then pos equals spawn length delta.x and pause. If delta.x is less than or equal to -2, ditto. And then we're going to have to do this recalculation. This is all brute forcing right now. We'll try and make something elegant later on. But, you know, just got to get it to work first. So once we've done that, we shouldn't have any issues with this. We still only have it programmed to do 1 jink at most, and we'll work on that later if we want to. But for now, we're going to want this to work. So let's go over into our cable. Just delete these cable turns. Here's the cable. Just drop in the turn left and the turn right. But one of these is wrong. I don't know which one. They have different rotations, so one of them is wrong. Because they need to have the same rotation. I guess they do have the same rotation. I must have changed their rotation at some point to demonstrate something. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this fella here, and we're going to move this cable box over here. And that should give us a good test. Let's go ahead and try it out. Connect. All right, so that was not what I expected. I think we have to put in some debug logic. Debug.log sideways spawning length plus length. But the weird thing is it didn't even get the turning right. There's no turning mesh in this setup. There's just two lengths. Definitely using the turning meshes there. Okay, so it's not even calling it. And the reason is... No, that's correct. Ah, yes, you're right. You have to understand that I'm a complete idiot. Oh, that's not the right place. This is the right place. Oh, come on, Craig. Be a little bit more aware of your world here. I can't claim that I'm not usually this dumb, but man, I'm really just not paying attention today. Thanks, Merry Kissness. You solved it. You figured it out, and that was what needed to happen. So all of these need to be rotated by 180, which is kind of what I expected. Boop. There we go. And then what we'll do is we will just notice the fact that we are going in precisely the wrong direction. And that's not a surprise, because we forgot to specify -x, and instead specified x. But these can be an else, so we don't need to do them as separate objects. There we go, just double that up. Merry Kissmas is saying, don't feel bad, other people are just as dumb. Yeah, that's true, but I'd prefer to not be dumb for so many years. And so connect. There we are. All right, so the next step is to do the mirrored side, but we also have to spawn a forward, a cable that goes forward if there's enough space to require it. We're going to go ahead and just do the second part of this for now. Close with a second turn. And this is going to be the other turn. So if turn equals cable turn L, then turn equals cable turn R, else turn, what the heck, come on, turn equals cable turn L. And then we just do the exact same thing we did before, but there is one difference this time. Once we've placed it, we have to rotate it. Oh, don't need to have it like this anymore. So cable dot rotation, or is it dot rotate around? I think it's dot rotate around. Yeah, we are. Rotate. And we're going to want to rotate around 90 degrees around one axis in particular. There we are. So it's axis and then angle. So this will be vector3.up, and it's going to be relative to just world space at this point. But it needs to be 90 degrees. Now this is all world space calculation, which is fairly rigid and easy to break. But screw it. It's okay. I've looked into what we're going to need, and I don't think we're going to need anything that is terribly complex. Except that it's not in the right position, because I forgot to add in the position. So we're going to go ahead and add that in now. So pos.x++, pos.z++. Sorry, it's actually pos.x and then whatever the length is. So if length is less than 0, pos.x minus minus, else pos.x plus plus. And then here, we're just going to finish that off. Let's go ahead and make that a value. Float dir equals 1 if length is less than 0, dir equals -1. And then we'll say, oop, that's not it. Pos at x plus equals dir. And we'll do the same here. And that should set it up correctly. Just let it recalculate and connect. Perfect! I love it when stuff works out. So now what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and have that length work. And the way we're going to do that is by checking to see whether or not we have more than one left. So float remaining equals delta, not delta, is it? It's length. Equals length minus dir. If remaining does not equal dir, then we have some time left. So we have a length to fill. So we actually don't want this to be dir. We want it to be dir times 2. And then we say if it's not equal to 0. We should probably say if it's not approximately 0. There we are. So if we've got length left, then what we want to do is create a length object. And this is the same exact setup, like literally precisely the same. There it is. There is one thing we have to do. We have to change the cable.local rotation, local scale, to be equal to a new vector 3 of 1, and then length, or remaining, and then 1. And then the last thing we have to do is offset the position. So position.x plus equals remaining. This is going to offset it funny, though. I'm not sure if this is going to be... Let's go ahead and give it a shot. We might have to do some more logic if it's going the other direction. We'll take a look. So... Oh! It's literally the same, including the error that I've made literally every time I've copy and pasted code. Cable straight. So we are rotating 90 degrees around the world. What we need to do is rotate dir times 90 degrees around the world for reasons that will become very obvious very soon. There we go. And now you can see how it perfectly covers whatever length we have that we need to cover. I think that that's pretty nice. Let's go ahead and set this up to be a little bit more aggressive. Perfect. And you know what's great about this is it handles really arbitrary random offsets in addition to the actual useful offsets. So even if you're offset by like 0.7, it'll still work. Nice, right? So let's go ahead and move this guy. And then what we're going to want to do here is, I just put it back on the integer offsets. You should rotate one of them by 90 degrees. Are you talking about these caps? They can't handle that right now. And it probably won't ever need to, which we'll get to later on. But either way, what we're trying to do is there are still a couple of pieces left for how we're going to set this up. And one of those pieces is what it's going to do if the offset is too short for the actual full side swipe. And here's the issue. We could have the need for 1, 2, or 3 jinking cables. And we could theoretically do it using some other means, but it's pretty clear that we're going to need, I think that jinking is probably the best option. The problem is 3 jinks would look terrible. 2 jinks is okay. I can put 1 at the top and 1 at the bottom. 3, well, we'll give it a shot. So first we'll just try it all in a row. And that's just going to be these, including this line here. And if they work all in a row, we'll see how awful it looks. And when we find out it looks awful, we'll do something a little more polished. So you can see how that looks pretty bad. I think that what we're going to want to do is have a custom offset. That's just not good enough. But we have a couple of options. One is we can put 1 on this side, 1 in the middle, 1 at the top. Another is we can make a custom jink that is 1.5 units wide. I think that let's go ahead and just see how it looks when we offset them. So we're going to go ahead and here, float coverage equals negative delta dot z. If x, if delta dot x, mathf.abs, delta dot x is greater than 0.55, thereabouts, then that means that we're going to have to jink twice. And because of that, we're going to want to divide the coverage in half. Else if it's greater than 0.05, then we're going to want to subtract 1. And that'll give us the coverage that we need. And then down here, we can grab this and put it here. And then we can say, hold on, need to recalculate the delta after each time I do this. So then when we get here, we can then say if there's any length left, then do the rest of the length. And if there's any x left, then do another jink. Well, let's give it a shot here. So we'll just do this again here. You know what? I don't like this. This is getting too grumpy. This is too many special cases. All right, so we're not going to do it like this. We are instead only going to allow for this. Now that's not going to be quite enough to actually close the gap on this box. What? Did it not? Unexpected symbol else. Did I screw something up here? Connect. And you can see how that's not quite enough to cover the length. So I think that that's going to be fine, and you know what? We'll just go ahead and create a big jink to go 1.5 units. There's no reason to, be careful about it. These are really easy to make, so we might as well make them. So here is our small jink, and we're just going to go ahead and duplicate those. We're going to call this a cable jink, cable big jink. I hope that jink isn't a word with other meanings. It sounds like a word that might have other meanings. So basically the idea here is that these need to move 1.5 units across. It would be a lot of work, but a fix could make a jink without the jink in the middle and do a custom distance cable. Yeah, that wouldn't look right given how I'm currently doing the stuff. But basically, all I need to really do is cover that one distance of 1.5 units. So we'll just go ahead and do that just by dragging it 1 unit further to the side, like that. And you can see how that result comes off as pretty grumpy. It's not a great result, but we can just adjust it until it is in line with what we'd like. This is not going to ever look very pretty if I don't redo it from scratch, but it's fine for now. Unwoven Sleeve says that mostly it's known for Velma saying it. Jinkies, which is fine. I don't believe that anybody associates Velma with anything terrible, and if they do, don't tell me. So I'm trying to make this width correct. That's more or less correct. So if you're wondering how it's supposed to look, this is how it looks when we've actually got the colors turned on. And we're going to go ahead and turn those colors on at some point, but since I have to make a system to do it, you know, a special shader, I don't really feel like doing it right now. This one worked a little bit better just due to the way that it happened to be arranged when we got started, but we'll go ahead and just tweak some of these values. That's good enough. Hit save. Now we're going to go into Unity again. We're going to take these prefabs for the Jinx and drop them in. And then we're going to create variants. And we'll just drop in the big Jink variants. And we'll drop those back into our prefab list. And then we'll go here into our programming language and create some new values. Cable big Jink L, cable big Jink R. And then down here, what we're going to do is we are going to have it a different way. And this is going to have just another if statement ahead of it. So we'll just grab this, copy it, and this is going to be if it's 1.4 or 1.4. Now that'll catch it, but this will take care of it if it's more than that. See? So that's the idea. Now this won't handle things that are like 1.7 or 1.8, but you're supposed to stick to the half unit grid. And that's going to be something that we're just going to go ahead and mandate. Either way, we don't want to do spawn Jink, we want spawn big Jink. And to do that, we'll just grab these, copy them, paste them, and then manually change all of these over to say big. And I know you can do a cut and replace, but I'm not confident that this IDE can do that. I've had no real luck with getting this IDE to behave. And then here, we've got this. This is going to be times 1.5 instead of whatever it was before. All right, let's give it a shot. So when we go back over into Unity, we'll just there we are. And oh, gotta set it up. Always remember, set up your stuff or else it won't work. It's so easy to program something and then be like, I programmed it right, and then you have like 400 things wrong with it. Like you forgot to plug it in. There we go. So the only real issue I have with this big Jink is that it looks ugly. What I'll probably do is make it so that it comes out and then back and around in an S shape. But I'm not going to do that right now. I'll do that some other day. What we need next is to allow it for vertical offsets. There's 2 vertical offsets, going up and going down. Now in the file, we only have going down. See? Now to turn this into a going up, you might think it's just a matter of, scale z -1. But as you can see, the cables are not centered. So if we do this, then we end up offsetting the cable, and that won't work out. So really how we want to do it is we should probably have a separate go up mesh. So we're just going to duplicate this, and we are going to scale z -1, and we're going to apply that. There we are. I didn't want to apply the rotation. I wanted to apply the scale. There you are. And you can see how that fixes it. Now the reason that that fixes it is because these are all being modified by this solidify. And we applied the change, and now the solidify is applied after the change, after the scaling rather than before it. So we're going to call this cable rise. And we already have the cable drop. And so we'll just duplicate that and create the cable rise. And these are 5 meter offsets because that is the size of a deck in this game, 5 meters. So because of that, we're going to want to offset this by 5 meters. And the order of operations is only important in that we don't want to run out of space. So it doesn't really matter whether we jink and then rise or rise and then jink or any of that stuff. But I think it would look best if they happen on opposite ends of the cable. So we're going to go ahead and reserve 1 unit, 1 Z level unit for rising or falling. Now, if we got to fall or rise by more than a specific amount, we'll deal with that. You know what? We probably should deal with that. You know what? Rising and falling should be a straight system, just like the turning. Yeah. Let's go ahead and do that instead. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this a turn up and a turn down rather than a rise and a fall, because the rising and the falling isn't what we need. So here is our base object. We're going to duplicate this base object, send the other one away, and then we're going to name this cable turn up. And we're just going to make it turn up. Now there is some question as to whether it should move forward a full unit or a half unit. I think a half unit is probably fine, so we'll just bring this back to half unit, and then we'll bring it up. Oh, I have too many things selected. So let's bring it up first, and then we'll bring it back. So we'll just bring it up a half unit and back a half unit. Is that half a unit up? I actually can't tell. Yeah, median. There it is. So once we've done that, we can just simply slope it by cutting here and here and here, and then moving these in. Like that. And then what we can do is bevel. And it's fun to bevel, so we'll just bevel again. And that's probably fine. Hooray. So that's our turn up, and then we're turning down too, so we're going to go ahead and cable turn down. And we're just going to scale Z -1 that, and then apply the scale. And that's going to be our turn down. Fast and easy. The magic of Blender bevels. I really, really wish there was a Blender subdivide on a specific axis command. But there's not, and I didn't want to add a whole bunch of extra crap to it, so... Now we've got a turn up and a turn down, which we're going to go ahead and put into these drops. So we're going to make a turn up and turn down. And select cable turn up. Where is it? Did I name it something stupid? Cable turn up, cable turn down. Save. There. I don't know, maybe I didn't save it. So that's going to be cable turn up. And then we duplicate it, cable turn down. that's going to be down. And then we're going to go ahead and delete the drop and the rise so that we don't accidentally think that we're using them. So with this in mind, we should now be able to create a rise and a fall. So let's go ahead and do exactly that. Now, as I said, I want to put this at the end of the cable rather than the beginning. So what we're going to do here is when we create the coverage, we're going to make sure that if there is a vertical offset, we set aside one coverage point. So this can't go less than 1 meter up. But that's a pretty loose constraint. I'm not too worried about it. All right, so the vertical rise is also going to be pretty straightforward. It's going to be exactly the same setup as here, except for we're going to be using Y, and it's going to be spawn vertical, which means I should probably rename spawn sideways as spawn horizontal. And I guess we're just going to go ahead and copy this. I mean, I've been making a ton of mistakes through copying and pasting the code, so I'm not 100% sure this is a brilliant idea. But we'll go ahead and give it a shot. Today, my nemesis appears to be copy-pasted code. Yep, here we go again. So if the length here is less than 1, and we're going to go ahead and cannot turn cable with less than 1y, and we're going to just make this a y. Spawning vertical length, and then the length. The direction is 1 or -1, that's correct. Transform turn equals cable turn up, but we don't have these yet. Cable turn down, so let's go ahead and add those in. Now you notice that I'm going through a lot of extra effort. This is not how complicated it normally is. This is much more complicated because all of my cables have a specific alignment, and you could just make a round cable, and then you could just rotate things arbitrarily. You'd only need two things. You'd need a 90-degree joint and a length, and then you could just do some rotations, and it would work out. And that's how most people do it, but I really, really wanted this cable that looks like it actually exists and isn't just a straight beam. That said, another option is that I could have done straight beams and then just had several of them next to each other, which might have been a little bit easier now that I think about it. Oh well. This still gives that computery cable feeling instead. So here we are in our spawn vertical, and we're spawning the vertical length. We got the cable turn up, got the cable turn down. We're instantiating the turn, and we're adding it. And then we will be closing it with a second turn. Okay, so that actually gets calculated before we need it. So we're going to go ahead and put that afterwards so that we don't forget later on what's going on. Yeah, that's fine. And we're going to go ahead and do the same thing down here. All right, so we're not doing an X offset, we're doing a Y offset, and we're dividing by 2 because we're only going half a unit. Same there. So what we've got here is the remainder, which is the direction like that, because we're going half a unit instead of a full unit. And so I guess we could have made the other turns half a unit now that I think about it. That would have made sense, wouldn't it? Oh well. Right, so if it's not approximately 0, then we need to instantiate a straight cable, and then we need to rotate it along the right axis. It might be the left axis. Either way. We will find out soon. And then we're going to offset it, and then we're going to go ahead and make this like so. And then we're going to go down here, and we're going to do cable turn up, cable turn down, cable turn up. There we go. And then here we got this exactly the same thing, but again we need to turn it according to right. And then we add it, and then we divide by 2, and we plus equals 0.5f. Pos.z. Am I doing the z backwards here? No, it's correct. The z is how far along it is. That's correct. Good. Did you mean to write sideways vertical length? Spawning vertical length. Thank you. I knew I'd changed something to vertical, but I kept seeing sideways out of the corner of my eye, and I was like, why do I keep seeing sideways? Didn't I change it? It says vertical. Alright, so that seems to be recompiled, and we'll just go ahead and drop these values in. Turn up, turn down, and save, just in case. Connect. And you can see it works great, except for those parts where it doesn't. So some of these, the problem is the rotation of the turning cable. So we're going to go ahead and drop these into the game world. And you can see that they are turned incorrectly to start with. So we're going to just rotate them 90 degrees and save them. Let's go ahead and just clean these up. I don't like having the random floating point errors gumming up my prefabs. Alright, so that should clean that part up. But, as you can see, it was in fact the wrong direction. So we're just going to invert this. Once that recompiles, we'll give it another shot. Ah! It appears that I have it backwards in my brain, because that was correct, except for I used the wrong direction. Here it is. That makes sense. I just wasn't thinking when I actually replaced the values. Obviously, you want to go down when you're trying to go down and up when you're trying to go up. That's a little bit important. Connect. Perfect. Look at that. It's beautiful. So beautiful. And can we do something else with it? You bet we can. Let's go ahead and drop it down and move it around and just see what we can get out of it in terms of nice offsets. Scrublex is leaving. So goodbye. I don't think he said hello, so hello and goodbye. And then we'll go ahead and give this a shot. Aha! It didn't work. Why didn't it work? Well, there's no vertical element happening here, and I think that's because it got the math wrong. So let's take a quick little look at the math and make sure that it's correctly triggering. If delta.y is greater than 1, -1, that's the right. Because this is a lot tighter than the turns. There we go. So starting to get there, but this guy is rotated the wrong way. That's kind of odd. Is his scale inverted? Is that what's going on here? His scale's inverted. So when we do the scaling for these in both directions, we're going to want to do this as a mathf.abs. And we're going to want to do the same thing for the horizontal. Better, good. So now what we're going to do is try the other direction. Whew. Good, good. And then we're going to move this part around. Good. I like it. we now have cables. So let's go ahead and recreate the ship. Because unfortunately for us, we don't have a ship. But there are a couple of things that we're going to want to do. We don't have the option to reset this, which means that we are ending up with some issues where we can't clear it. Now, we don't really have to have a reset, but since it's useful for debug purposes, we're going to go ahead and put one in public void reset. And then for here, we're going to go ahead and if cables 0, then do this. Because it might be empty. And then we'll just grab this, cut it, move it, and reset. I don't know if reset is a value that we get out of it. So rotating the cable box won't cause any problems except for it won't align. So if we go ahead and grab this cable box here and we just rotate it like this, I'm going to go ahead and delete these values because I just screwed up the system, so it's going to have that screwed up. So we're going to go ahead and connect. And you can see how it works great, except for it's trying to connect into the wrong part of the box. It ignores the rotation of the cable box right now. Now, if there's a need for it later on, I can put these rotations in. But for now, I don't think I'm going to need them, so it's okay if they are offset, but not if they're rotated. You know what? Reset is a preserved word. It's a keyword, so we're going to change it. Reset cables. I keep clicking on this. I don't need it open anymore. Goodbye. So, reset the cables, connect the cables. Ooh. Yep, all works good. The only problem is that we don't have a vertex color shader. So the two options are to either create one or to just not have one. I think we do have a vertex color shader. Right now we're using this hull 1 shader, which is not a material that we should be using. Let's go ahead and duplicate this, and we will call this cable. And we're just going to go ahead and make it red or pink or something so we can see that we've got it applied. And then down here in prefabs, we're going to select all of these. And they all have the same material, as you can see. So we'll just drop in the new cable. Oh, that's not how you do it. Cable material. And I think that that should do the trick. The only other thing I need to do is pop open the cable box. And this needs to have that same material. Boom. And now we will reconnect, try it. Connect. And you can see how it's purple, which is fine for debug purposes, but I'd really like to get some vertex color in there. And I believe there is exactly one vertex color shader. I just can't remember which one it is. Is it a particle shader? Vertex lit? No, it's... No, I think this is a flat color. Yeah. It may be that I'm remembering it wrong. I think I'm remembering it wrong. I don't see anything that gives me the idea that it should be here. So I don't think it is here. Fantastic. So first things first, let's turn the camera to a black backdrop. Because it's a starry night. And then we're going to go ahead and change the coloring. Because the color window is still using blue. Which is no good. Perfect. And we got some skybox reflection here. We're not going to have a skybox for any time soon, so we'll just leave it as it is. And let's start to dump things into this scene. So we'll start with the ship hardpoints. So just drop them in, and there they are. And you remember how we had an annoying time setting them up last time. We're going to have an annoying time setting them up this time. But I think what we'll do is we'll create a new object, which we'll call ship. I know it's a very clever term. And we'll go 0, 0, 0. And then the ship will just be, just have the elements we need in it. So it'll be these 3. And then we'll delete these. Oh, darn it. The doors are actually part of the package deal, I'm afraid. This one's a little bit offset. Fixed it. Perfect. Now we're set up. We can delete these guys. There we are. And now we'll just maneuver these until they are in roughly the right spot, but we're not going to be too terribly careful this time. We're just going to go ahead and set up the hallway first, and then we will move things around and set them up. But we do want them all to be on the same z-axis, and you can see how they're offset by a small amount because not all of them are centered. So we're just going to move them until they're all on the same point. Then we're going to take these cable boxes and move them around because we don't want them in the way. So now we're going to bring in the ship halls, and there's our ship halls. Just drop it, move it, set it up. I think that's right. Yep. So once we've got the halls starting to get set up, we can always just duplicate them and put them into position. And one thing you'll notice is that these halls don't have very brightly colored glass. It's kind of hard to see the glass texture. And that's because the glass texture isn't glass, it's hull 1. Not sure why that is. I'm like 90% sure I didn't set it up right. That's why. So we're going to just go ahead and drop glass in there instead of a random other glass. What the fuck is going on here? Glass. Glass? What? Oh, this is fucking weird. I found a Unity bug. There we are. That's better. So now we're going to go ahead and just duplicate this a couple of times. And we'll go ahead and put stuff together in later. For now, we're going to go ahead and create the objects that we need. Well, I'm shouting glass because for some reason it was ignoring me. But if you shout loud enough, it hears you. Here's the ship components we're going to want. We're just going to drop the ones we want. Look at this. It did it again. It must be because I crashed. When I crashed, it must have corrupted some of the materials. That's better. Yeah, I think what happened is it had some instance materials that got foobarred when the system went down. All right, let's just drop the ones we want into our new ship. We don't need all of them. So here's the integrated dorm. Just drop that in. And then here is the maintenance room. Just drop that in. And then we want the small bridge room. And then we'll take the ops room. And then we'll delete the rest. And all of these can go to 0, 0, 0 while we set them up. 90 is the wrong way. So rotate like this, and then right like this. There we are. And let's move them around. So basically, the points right here, these two windows, get replaced by a door. So this would be lined up with the door, but you can see how that actually clips just slightly into the object next to it. So I think it has to be over here in order to not look totally stupid. There we go. And where is the last... Ah, there it is. Hiding in plain sight, I see. Right. So we can just change these to doors by cloning the door and moving it into position. And then we will delete the windows that conflict. Nope, that was not one. No, that's fine. Just move this other window into position. There we go. So, we can now put other objects on the other side, like say more of these windows. We'll just go ahead and do that while we're still thinking about it. Now obviously these tunnels are going to be generative in the long run, where you will paint where you want the tunnels to be, and it will automatically decide whether you're aiming to put a door there or not. And it'll just change whenever you need a door. So that's the basic idea behind these halls. There we go. But let's go ahead and wire some stuff up and make sure that the wiring works in the way we want it to. So here is some cable box. Let's bring it over. So the idea here is that you're able to use these areas. You're able to use these areas in your programming, basically, is what's going on. So if you want the ops room here to optimize just the cargo container, you would connect it with a cable. And that would be just done by just having a position on the cable room, which you can connect to, which is a little bit untested because I didn't really try very hard yet. But it would be 4.46. That's a strange height. Let's try 4.5. Oh, it's an offset. It's not a height. So yeah, something like that. And then we can take this other cable box and put it on the cargo bay. Now, I don't have a specific setup for this just yet, so it's a little bit iffy. But more or less, that's how you do it. And then you would just say, connect. And that's the basic idea. So right now, there are other ship components that we need to add in. So let's go ahead and do that. This guy is some power elements. So solar panels, useful. Unwoven Sleeve says you just swap the script out using you just swap the mesh out using a script, right? Exactly. It's a mirrored mesh, so the left mesh and the right mesh can be replaced independently, and you can replace them with any valid mesh. In this case, there's only two, but you can still replace them with any valid mesh. Now, there are door caps for the hallways. I'm not using them at the moment because it's just fluff that I don't need to worry about. But let's grab the reactor. Sorry, the rocket. It's in here somewhere. There you are. Wow. It's a... Oh, it's scaled incorrectly. Okay, so we're going to pop open the mesh for the hard points, because apparently at some point I scaled this. Unwoven Sleeve says I've set this up pretty intelligently. Well, I've done a lot of this sort of thing. It's just a matter of whether or not I can get it to work in terms of being a game, which is always a little bit of a challenge. So there's a little bit of clipping here, but for a first take, it's not too bad. Didn't this have a door in it? Oh, the door is also framed funny. Right, these should be scaled at 111. And then here, just to show you, this is the object in question. And all we have to do is tell it to use a different... Oh, can we do multi-editing? We can. Tell it to use the hall half door, like that. And it works. Offset is a little bit wrong on the engine, but it works. I actually can't tell. The offset might be permanently broken because of the way I did the engines. Well, I can fix it later. No biggie. And so the bridge can control the whole ship, but you can also add in little details of where you want the bridge to control by connecting it. But first, I'm going to address this vertical stripe that I missed. So let's open up the ship and go into the bridge and delete the stripe. And the only reason the stripe is there is because I was doing mirror editing and I forgot to turn on the clipping. So we ended up with a stripe down the middle. See that? We don't want a stripe down the middle. So it's connected up to a lot of stuff. We're going to just have to hide. One down. And then over here, got the same problem. Guarantee it. Yep. Hide. There we are. So you can connect the bridge to specific things if you want that bridge to control only specific objects. But more importantly, this maintenance room allows you to maintain only specific objects if you'd prefer. So if you know that you're going to be doing short flights or whatever, or if you wanted to have different sorts of priorities, you could connect this maintenance room to specific objects and save on the amount of effort that you're going to be putting into maintaining those objects. So let's go ahead and drop this and then move. That's at 0, 0, 0. Good. Move this over here and then we'll mount it. Now, the exact mounting position is irrelevant, more or less. But I do want to standardize it to enough of an extent that I can rely on it. You know what I mean? Burn? So what we're going to do is we're going to just mount this to the other rocket engine, which is offset by a different amount. So we're going to just ignore that and just try it. Wow, it didn't work. Oh, this doesn't have any of the connections. I'm sorry. I've got to delete this. We're going to duplicate this cable, and we're going to go ahead and call it cable. And we're going to clear it. And then we are going to save it. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what I did wrong there, but we're going to go ahead and save this prefab. And that's an empty prefab with a specific offset, so it should work fine. And we'll just move it into the new place. And then, yep. Perfect. There we are. So you can see that the idea behind this is that your spaceship is going to have your places where you live and that sort of stuff, and you're going to be wiring them up. Now, this is a really, really rough example because it's very wide and short. In reality, you'd probably have it arranged a different way. So let's go ahead and try another kind of arrangement just to see whether or not it feels right. The issue at hand here is that these objects aren't supposed to look like this. They're not supposed to be arranged like this, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One, it's ugly. But two, it makes it very hard to control what you're doing with your time, because the crew coming out of this crew cabin here. There's 4 crew members. in this 4-person crew cabin, and they come out into the hall, and then what they do is they automatically split between the stations that are available to them. So they split between these 3 stations equally. But chances are you don't want them to split between those 3 stations equally. So let's go ahead and arrange this in a different order so that we have a different setup that does things more in line with what we would like it to do. So to do that, we're going to pull this crew cabin, and we are going to invert it like this. Not there, though. But I also want to rearrange the ship objects. I don't feel like this is a very good setup for us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have just one rocket engine, which makes a lot more sense. And we're going to move it down below. Now the problem with this is I'm actually not going to do that. I'm going to delete this one. And I'm going to move this one to 0, 0, 0. And then I'm going to move this guy. I'll rotate him. Now, I'm not actually going to end up using this misaligns the door with the current setup. So this is not how it's going to be in the current setup. This is just for testing purposes. But basically, we're going to go ahead and set this up as a heavy cargo freighter. Rather than having lots of extra rockets, we're going to have lots of extra cargo, right? And that way we'll have a much narrower set of parameters. And we're going to go and just establish this. Delete, 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 delete. And drop this in a little bit. But these cargo bays are not in the right spot, so we'll move them until they are. And now that it's narrower, we can start to work on it in terms of how it should look for perfect performance. And I'm not really 100% sure how I want this to look for perfect performance, but let's go ahead and start to align it. First things first, this bridge room small shouldn't be a bridge room small. We're going to need a bridge chamber. The difference between a bridge room and a bridge chamber is that the chamber has 2 doors. And that means that people go in, they do all of the work that this room has, and then they go out the far side. And that's just a way to prioritize. So if we were going to do that, we could drop that in here. We could delete these like that. So with this slotted in like so, we got some extra fluff happening in here. Is there a window in the background here? There is. Boom. So with that set up like that, you can see the missing connector on the hallway. I have that connector, but I'm not going to bother with it right now. We're all 1/2 meter too high, I think. Yeah, that's fine. So with that setup, what we're going to want is this should be over here. Now, there's a little bit of a clipping issue in terms of this being a little bit wider than it should be. Just a touch. You can see how that's actually pushing through the end, the edge of the bridge. It's not supposed to actually be that wide. I made it a little too wide on accident. I can fix that later, though. The point is, they come rushing out of this room, and then they move through the corridors, and the only station they can reach is this bridge station. And the bridge station, which is here, they do all of the work in the bridge station, and then they move out into the next area. And the next area can be whatever we want it to be. So we can then split them between the optimization area, the ops room, and the maintenance bay. And this means that they will prioritize getting actual ship priority things done, because the bridge is a priority. And so they will really, really get a lot of solid bridge work done, rather than having just splitting it and like, I've got maintenance to do rather than flying the ship. Of course, if you don't do enough maintenance, then you end up not being able to fly the ship after all. So who knows, right? So what we're going to do is we are going to optimize the engine, I guess. And I guess we'll want to maintain it as well. So let's go ahead and maintain the engine. And we will see whether or not this system works. We're pushing it to be as ridiculous as possible here. Perfect. Would you look at that? Because they rise to their full height at the front of the ship, you get a very different characteristic. Now, another option is that I could have them do it the other way around, and they could start here and then, you know, rise and then tweak at the end. And there's no reason not to do that. And I think it would look a little bit better. So let's go ahead and do that. And basically what we're going to do is we're just going to invert the Unwoven Sleeve says rest in peace Stripe. I'm not sure when he said that though. So what we're going to do is we're basically just going to invert when this vertical rise happens. We're going to put it at the top. Here we are. And then we are going to do the delta calculation. Now the problem with this is that if we put it here, we don't need to do a lot of this random work. So we'll just... But if we put it here, we are now doing some extra setup here that we probably don't want to do. It's probably not an ideal visual for us. No, not the light, the cable. Because I think that now we're front-loading it. Yeah. So because we're front-loading it, we end up dropping at the same time. You can see how that's happening, and then we kind of coil off. I actually like how that looks, except for the fact that it overlaps. So what we're going to do is we are going to move this guy. Rather than being on top, we're going to put it off to the side. Now, to tell you the truth, I had it originally configured for being off to the side. I just wanted to see what it was like on top. Now, the reason that it's off to the side, and that's better, is because that way, when you look at the ship, we can do analysis based on the way that the conduit works. And that's a little bit easier and better for us. But we're having some issues where we've got a random turning and jinking happening here, and I'm not sure why that is. It may be that there is simply... It's not actually reaching the right height anymore. Oh, I barfed it. I changed the math, and the math no longer works. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. My guess is that because it was the last thing we did before, we actually were wrong in how we did this. And my guess is that this is the problem. Is it? That should be right. I'm trying to think about why it's doing this. It's doing some weird stuff here. So this here is at 0, 2.5, negative 5, and this is at 0.5, 1, and 0. So there's no X component, so I'm not sure why it's trying to jink. This is clearly it jinking. So that's really strange. Let's reset the cables. Okay, so it's definitely doing that on purpose. It's going to the correct height now, but it's not returning the correct height. Okay, so that's the first thing we got to fix. There it is. Cut and paste, get you every time. Yeah, perfect. There we go. And now obviously this isn't set up to look perfect yet, so we're going to move these boxes just to give us a little bit of a better visual so that they don't randomly cut through the object. Perfect. So that is what I have in mind for how the cabling looks. Now the critical thing to remember is that there is a view which just shows the activation of the cables. So if you are looking at the ship and you want to see how things are working, you can see how it's working. It'll dim down all of the other materials, and it'll just show you which cables are active and what they're assigning and that sort of stuff. But this setup here is the basic setup for a ship that prioritizes its engines. It's a cargo ship that prioritizes its engines over all else. And that was what I wanted to get done today. So thanks for hanging around. I'm going to sign off for the day. And If you are watching this later, I probably won't have uploaded the first 45 minutes of this, so it'll seem a little short. But you didn't miss anything. This is the triumphant result. Let's go ahead and take some screenshots. If you have any questions, you should ask them now while I'm taking the screenshots, because afterwards I won't be answering any. I'll be offline. Taking screenshots of a prototype like this is always iffy because it's like there's no really decent materials or anything. It's just pretty garbagey, but it's not too bad. Let's go ahead and change the color, the light, so that it's just a little bit better, and we can see where we're looking here. Here we go. Mary Kissness says, "Have a nice day." I have a nice day. I didn't know so many people were here. What's up with that? Is that damage to the bridge? Interesting. Doesn't matter. It's fine. If we have a winking bridge, we've got a winking bridge. Let's pop on over to tweet. Paste. My Alt button is mostly broken. Success. My ship cable system works great. Just need a vertex color shader. IndieDev screenshot Saturday? Is that what it's called? No, it's Saturday screenshot? Screenshot? Oh, a screen has a C in it. That's the problem. I don't know what the tag is. Apparently it's no longer popular enough to pop up when I try and fill it. Still, that's fine. And let's go ahead and take a close-up look. Just to give people a real close view of the cables, because why not, right? Tweet. All right, well, I think that might have had some sound playing in the background because I opened up someone's random Twitter profile, and for some reason Twitter decided it should autoplay a video, which is brilliant, I guess. Gotta make that engagement, even if everybody hates you for it, I guess. Anyway, I don't have any engagement, so I'm not going to talk. I'll see you folks on Wednesday if you care to come back. Bye.